Hello, everyone. This is the Anime Connoisseurs, and we just watched Mobile Suit Gundam, Witch from Mercury, Prologue. We're gonna probably be doing this like weekly, watching each episode and seeing, just recording our reactions. This is the show I've been looking forward to uh, a whole lot. With me, I have Son Charmander.
What's up? I'm Char. I've been watching anime with the boys here for a little while, but I haven't really jumped on. I've been giving them my thoughts for a while, so thought it'd be a good idea to just come out and do things in a little more of a structured, note-taking, proper manner, and give a little analysis here.
All right, so yeah, that first episode, this intro is I'm sure I'm just gonna love this show from just this so far. I'm already a huge Gundam fan, and this seems like everything I love about the series. You got the political intrigue, just heartfelt moments, and of course, just really cool robot fights.
There's definitely elements of that are really strong. But what I really appreciated was some of the quieter moments that they were able to interweave pretty organically. Some of my notes I have here at the very beginning, when they're just doing the layer 33 test, I noticed that there's a quiet intro. It's very focused on just two characters back and forth. There's not explosions or anything very huge going on. It's just building the focus point of reaching this layer of connection between the human and the machine.
Yeah,
There's good smooth amount of tension, and I actually really sorry if I cut you off there, but I really how it also built character a little bit without forcing it too much. Like the small things between the mother, which again, that's actually a fantastic approach to not have a damn teenager be the solution to everyone's problems, but just have like an actual adult with experience being the test pilot and a mother at that. That's something I haven't seen before. And I liked the back and forth where she very clearly wanted to push farther against her own well-being for the sake of a sense of duty or ideals or a mission. And then you have the controller, the professor woman, who is trying to keep things exactly strict to schedule, keep things strict to projected models. And you could see that there was a little bit of like a fostered motherhood of the professor toward the pilot that was just a little nuanced, but I still picked up on it, and I still really appreciated it.
Yeah, that's yeah, I picked on the two, like how they sort of have like Soleta, Ari sort of considers. Did we get her name? The old woman. Yeah, they sort of consider her like family.
Oh, I only got the kid's name.
Yeah.
Like it was hard. I think it was like Nando or not Nado. I think that was the professor's name, and I think the pilot had a name that started with E. I think the kid was named Ari, which ended up being like Erit or something like that. And I remember I remember the mother had like a longer version of that name. Yeah. So it was a little derivative of each other, but I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Yeah, just for clarity, I have watched ahead. There's like three episodes out now, in addition to this one. But yeah, back to this episode. Yeah, she the opening scene reminds me of Evangelion specifically with their sync ratios.
Yes, I was seeing a lot of Ava elements here, and I was wondering how that was going to tie into like emotional wavelengths and all that.
Yeah, so like, and like the way the tech inside this version of the Gundam works, as we get to learn over the course of the episode, like it's based on this sort of medical tech that's based on like trying to adapt to life in space.
Right, yeah. It was a little unclear coming from someone who hasn't been like super in the right wavelength to absorb that kind of information about the plot.
Yeah.
I watched like a couple Gundam series. Like I'm back Gundam Wing G Gundam back in the freaking Toonami days, and my Gundam exposure is very limited. So a lot of these mechanics are hard to understand on first watch.
Yeah, that's why I brought you in so like to get like a perspective of someone just
Yeah.
new to the series. But I guess I'm biased. I thought it explained what it was doing well enough, but
It's because it's a little bit of like an abstract concept often.
Yeah, I'm probably just like
it's harder to adopt that. Yeah,
this kind of sci-fi stuff from all.
I did appreciate the way that they staggered the explanation. Was not just here's info dump, all right, deal with it. It starts off by just using it. This is what is going to be the mechanic of the plot. This is what's going to be what fuels the character's growth. So they're not just going to shove it in our face. We're going to watch them actually living and working with it. Then they're going to explain a little bit about it when we're watching the scene on TV, when the politicians are going back and forth and you're hearing a lot of the jargon being smashed together. That's texturizing a little bit more of a clear explanation to what layer 33 interaction was supposed to mean. And it didn't completely make it intuitive just yet, but later on in the episode, when we got interactions with a small Eri and how it seems like the mobile suit's core was more a learning AI and more like looking for the proper human connection, that made a lot more sense. That layer 33 to me seemed like this was like the synchronization layer where your emotions started to flow into the Gundam's actual like operations. As we see later in the episode, Eri treats it like a game and treats it like just an extension of herself, and that's why the full synchronization seems like can just go off like that.
Yeah, and also like in my notes, she also treats the since like the way they explained it to her is like it's her little sister. She like treats it as a person.
Yeah,
which
where it seems like the mother even is treating it like a tool, a necessary tool to save humanity, but it is still a tool, and the professor is treating it like a tool. The only person who treated like a proper person was a kid, and it's because that's how you explain certain things personified to a kid. You have to actually tell them this is a person because they can't compartmentalize metaphor. But ironically, that layer removed made the most sincere connection and allowed that full synchronization to take place, and that's really cool.
Yeah, and as you see with the other pilots, like later on in the episode, it's doing something to them. This technology, like
yeah, it seems like it's causing a huge amount of mental strain.
Yeah,
the deeper you go,
like the way when they had the sort of exposition thing on the TV, we see that like it's been the tech has been killing people in some way.
Yeah.
At least when it's applied to the mechs, whereas like the basis for this is like this medical technology. So
yeah.
But also, yeah, it also this also like feeds into the world building itself, like sort of explain like the positions of sort of getting into positions of like where things are in the solar system. People it seems to be like sort of a flip one, like our typical kind of Gundam setting where like Earth is the president, and now it's sort of seems to be the people in space and power. The way they seem to be explaining it, you have
that's an interesting flip from what I'm used to hearing about how the colonies were always on the back foot and always trying to just fight for their independence, where now space seems to be calling the shots. It's always kind of unclear. Like when we watched Unicorn, it was very hard for me to like understand which faction was talking.
Yeah. So next time, like we do like our anime thing, and if I choose Gundam for next one, it's going to be origin. That's like the basis, other than like just the original Gundam. But yeah, back to this one.
On the subject of tools, I found one interesting parallel. While that was the subtext about how if you stop treating the Gundam like a tool and more of a person, an extension of yourself, or an extension to another person, and that created the proper link without friction, really, because you can tell Eri had zero friction. She had no stress. Yeah. So this technology seems to only work when you don't think about it. And it has a more natural flow. But in that sense of it being the subtext of how the Gundam is not a tool, and that being a positive light in a natural extension, you have these simultaneous double meaning alongside the what was the name of the organization that was meant to say no more Gundams?
I think it's the Benner Group. I think it's the Benner Group. They've established that name so far. I can't remember.
But that
I know the organization that's building the Gundam is Ox.
Okay, so the character that was doing his speech and talking about how these are not real weapons of war, these are not tools, they kill their users, they're curses. Well, it's interesting how he's saying that they're not tools and making it a negative, where the most natural use of the technology is a freeing positive. But they're both dismissing it as a tool, but in different ways. And it's happening simultaneously on screen when they're cutting back and forth. And on that note, I'd say the editing in this show, at least for this first episode, has been very organic. It cuts back and forth between scenes that are very much related thematically, and only after like really digesting it and thinking about it like this did I see that parallel, but it was very intentionally done. And I also noticed that there was a very clean cutting back and forth in the earlier sections of the episode when they wanted to go explain the politics aspect. We wanted to go back to our main family characters because otherwise we're not going to care when the father makes that really emotional sacrifice. We have to build a relationship with this family immediately. So we have to have that establishment. And it's cutting back and forth with that, but it's not like A plot, B plot, because he's watching the A plot on TV and says, "This sucks. I'd rather talk about my family."
Yeah.
So it organically weaves between them in a way that gives us the trickled amount of explanation of world building and explaining mechanics while still giving us character development to endear us to this father and to this mother and to explain the relationship between the mother and the professor as well. So I really liked how well paced and edited this first episode was, because it just trickled what it needed smoothly and with dual meanings. And that's just a sign of very good, well thought out writing.
Yeah, Gundam's always been like, it's had the politics, but it's also been about like sort of the people behind whatever's going on, the war, sort of just how everything affects just people at a personal level. And that's just like great to see that they're continuing. It bugs me that to see people saying that this like isn't real Gundam for whatever reasons. We'll get to the next episode, but
oh no,
this is the heart of Gundam. I think thematically that going back to like sort of the way technology affects war is like a theme that we've seen before, especially in Gundam Wing. There was sort of like drone warfare that they were sort of paralleling, but here back to what you were saying about how they like equate these to tools versus people.
Yeah,
we have some similar goings on in here, and just like how that affects like war and how it affects soldiers, people's lives in war, through war.
I'm very interested to see like how they continue to develop this potential parallel between any real life issue like drone warfare could be used to substitute in for the topics they were talking about in Gundam Wing. I'm really curious to see where this parallels to maybe talk about the development of AI in a more natural, introducible way to our everyday lives, or to the higher level concepts of like where does humanity stand in the stars due to the advancements you can make with these medical technologies, to these extreme capabilities of exploration once you have that full synchronization. I'm interested to see how far it goes with that without going full on Studio Trigger and having an overly large concept that becomes kind of just too hard to digest. So yeah. But even while I was saying that sentence, I was like, oh, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I feel like there's something there.
Yeah, space exploration hasn't like been too much of a big deal in Gundam, but they've touched on it in like I think it was one of the Gundam Seed spin-offs, but like Gundam has like basically been stuck to like Earth orbit in like other parts of the solar system. But yeah, like sort of like this does sort of open up this avenue for like how space exploration and adaptation to life in space works. I always love to see them like acknowledging that like people aren't like built for life in space, even like in our sort of even when we build like habitats and stuff.
No, it's very unintuitive to try and adapt to those things. They have to do insanely extra things on the space station in our real world just to like not muscle atrophy. They have to have special exercises every day. They have to be careful how they eat food because it can just start floating away from them. Yeah. And all kinds of subtle things that you'd think we take for granted. But when you introduce zero gravity into the equation, suddenly things get very, very different.
Yeah, a series that I love, that I think all Gundam fans should watch, that does it really well, is a show called The Expanse, where like this is hundreds of years in the future. People like live also over the solar system, and you see like what that's done to people like biologically. Like people who live like in the asteroid belt in that show, like. Tall, skinny, just off of living in low gravity.
Right.
It's hard for them to like adapt to life on planets.
That makes sense.
And like the way that affects how people perceive each other, how it affects like politics, social dynamics, just the culture is like very, very cool. Yeah, I think anyone who like loves Gundam should like give that show a shot. It's especially like if you love UC and that sort of
And I'd really be interested to be more practical about the advantages necessary to accrue in order to adapt to space travel, space exploration, and space just living in different space environments beyond just we're going to transcend humanity and become espers for some reason, like Gundam Unicorn.
Just UC in general. The concept of new types is kind of odd.
It was very abstract. I mean, it fit its own narrative really well, but I really would like to see Gundam not just rehash the same tropes of the central conflict between Earth and space colonies, or I guess even if you flipped it, it could be, well, not much of Earth is inhabitable and the larger force is in space, and it's just in orbit though. So like what happens when you're really deep and you don't have this fallback of Earth? What if you have to adapt to different worlds or different gravities or different cosmic hazards?
That's kind of
that would be cool.
That's kind of a criticism I have for like specifically Universal Century Gundam that sort of there's this idea that Earth is like barely hanging on in habitability wise, except like we never really get to see that. They drop a damn asteroid or colony on Earth every other series, and then like Earth can't take much more, and then they keep going.
Yeah, so if they're talking about being the future of humanity, I want to see how is this a future of humanity other than even stronger Gundam fights. Like, don't get me wrong, it's gorgeous. The animation of watching some of these things deploy, it was art. It was genuinely beautiful. But I really hope it doesn't stop there and it has like an actual grounded reason to why this is the key to everything.
Yeah, I think Universal Century does tackle that in that sort of there's this empathic angle to like I think the main angle they want to take you want to take away from new types is sort of the empathic abilities that they have. You understand what's in each person's heart.
So right. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
I really love Benager so much. He's not just like fighting people or telling them, oh, you're wrong. He's like looking in their hearts, seeing what's hurting them, and like trying to sort of appeal to their humanity in that sort of way.
But you got to be careful of those things because people have walls up internally for a reason, and if you pry past those walls, there's no amount of empathy that'll get them to agree with you. They'll be so defensive and afraid.
Ooh,
so there's definitely an approach to that that's nuanced.
This is why I wish you had seen like the Earth episode, the freaking Battle of Dakar episode of Unicorn when we were watching that. I'm sad you
missed a few.
I'm sad that you missed that because that definitely does get tackled in that episode.
That makes sense.
But yeah, I do think like this is sort of a Soletta's whatever condition is that is letting her sync perfectly with the Gundam compared to everyone else. Is sort of the new type equivalent of this. The armor or just the look of it is definitely like very much unicorn-esque with the red glow, psycho frame looking.
Yeah,
check from Gund. But yeah,
kind of like the pure white with like little aesthetic trim and just a little bit of lights to open things up. That's definitely reminiscent of a unicorn. What I really hope is that Eri is not a new type. She is not a magical psychic baby, and it's just purely because she had the childlike innocence that she was able to make that first connection, and that the adults are going to learn from the child's approach to this technology and to treat it less like a tool and more like an extension of themselves. And then that might lead into some other development derived from that approach that might change how society can work on like some fundamental level. I don't want to have too many crazy expectations here, but all I am saying is I hope that she doesn't have a plot MacGuffin, but it was just purely because her approach was so innocent and pure and without hesitation or compartmentalization.
Yeah, I think that's like
would be better.
That's very much like what Tomino's Gundams try to convey with their characters. I think that's probably like the direction it's going into. But I'm being Gundam, I'm sure the world's going to beat her up first.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. This adorable little girl is. I don't want to see it, but it's coming.
I mean, she's gonna have to eventually cope with the fact that she killed people at the age of 4.
Yeah, like she has like yeah, that's the one thing that that stands out. It's like she really doesn't comprehend what's going on right there.
Mm-hmm.
She just like sees these little things and just like sort of kind of I wouldn't say instinctively, but like just is able to just direct the things to like attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like and throughout the whole fight, she's like really not too keen, she's not really tuned in on like just how dangerous and what situation is and what's going on. And I'm never gonna be able to listen to Happy Birthday the same way again.
Happy birthday to you. この回線を切れ。できません。発信源はガンダムと推測。ディアエリック。どういうことだ。
Yeah, that was interesting how it was trying to be a double up of the father celebrating his daughter's birthday as the last thing that he thinks about before he dies from the immersion strain. And it's also the birth of the Gundam actually being in full deployment, in full use. It's the birth of the concepts that are going to shake the world of, let's call it the Federation for shorthand, because I'm sure it has some name, but this space government and this society that has apparently universally just condemned Gundams, which is confusing because Gundam has meant so many different things in the different interpretations of the series, but yeah. It seems like Gundam is exclusively talking about the mobile suits that are using this new technology.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
My question is, what happened to Gundanium, or is that just like, do we just pretend that's not a thing anymore?
That depends on the series. Like Gundarium was like original Gundam, and Wing had sort of this specific Gundam named alloy as a thing, but okay. It fluctuates between like different series. What constitutes a Gundam?
And that's what makes the series a little bit like difficult to approach in new shows, because you try to take things from old shows that were established, kind of feeling like core concepts, and like, no, this doesn't apply this time. So you kind of ask, is the Gundam anything that just has the samurai helmet and the eye visor? Like, is that the only way I'm going to call it a Gundam at this point?
Like, if you're trying to go off aesthetics, it gets even more muddy because
oh no,
because there are things that don't look like what you would anything like the OG Gundam that are considered Gundams. It's going to depend on the series, like yeah, you have like your Gundanium that's that's like a thing in original Gundam and Wing. Although like even in freaking original Gundam, that alloy doesn't make something a Gundam. It's just an alloy named after the Gundam that gets eventually gets used on basically everything. Gundam is like sort of just like a brand name.
So it's hard when you have vitriolic hatred of Gundam, condemning the concept of Gundam, and it becomes unclear what even is a Gundam. I thought both sides had Gundams because they had really unique looking custom mobile suits. Yeah, so I thought both sides had Gundams, and these just were special Gundams. And it was like, oh my god, this whole speech about how it's unhumane, how the technology, again, it wasn't very clear when it said the technology, because I thought they were talking about mobile suits as a whole. I'm like, you're using mobile suits to low-key invade these people who are working on this project, are you a hypocrite, or do I just have no idea what I'm looking at?
Yeah, no, I think they were establishing that what makes the Gundam is this this medical gun technology. That's
right.
Yeah.
Is that what was powering the mother's prosthetic arm? Is it just a form of Gund?
Yeah, that's what they were.
Oh, so this could go really far. I could see the applications of this once we get super sci-fi, is to be, if you can synchronize your consciousness and willpower with a machine to such a degree that it has its own consciousness that kind of merges with yours, we could look at this as a way of extending human life artificially to extremes, to as long as the data can survive, almost.
Yeah.
So that could be it's not just the survival of space. It might be that the human body is so bad at just the environment of space that this medical technology could eventually see the final form of the human race as a spacefaring, exploration focused race being just melded with this Gund technology and having near everlasting lifespans. That could be an interesting implication and twist.
Oh yeah, it's reminding me of an idea from another Gundam series I won't spoil, as well as another mecha series called freaking. I won't spoil that one either. on thinking about the name, but there's some these really cool science fiction concepts that like come up. They give all the potential applications and stuff that how they'll affect humanity day-to-day lives.
Yeah, this might go full Deus Ex real fast.
Yeah. Ooh.
But yeah, overall, I'd say it's not as bombastic or absurd as some of the Gundams I've gotten used to, but I appreciate that it's quiet and it's focused and it's got a strong emotional base, and any emotional trigger that it's asked for, it has already had 2 meaningful deaths, and they hit pretty quickly because they gave us time to like the characters. So I have good hopes for this. It seems grounded, even though it's, again, kind of insane trying to be the extension of the future of humanity as a whole. It still feels grounded, and I like how it's written, and I'm looking forward to it continuing this pace.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this.
You sound excited. You also sound tired.
Just a little.
Yeah, my bad for starting this at 10 p.m. My schedule is whack.
I'm good. I mean, I've got like relatively late school today anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like this is a good stopping point. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here. I can't wait to do this again.
All right.